Live on Times Radio. I'm John Pienaar here with Stig Abel on the day of the news released by the royal household earlier this afternoon that doctors have grown seriously concerned for the health of the Queen. Senior royals have been converging on Balmoral Castle to the Queen's side. Political leaders have been sending and publishing their anxious messages. The announcement earlier this afternoon, after the initial news that the Queen had withdrawn from an appointment on doctors' orders, triggered an inevitable flurry of rumours and speculation. But it came almost as a shock, which is in itself an extraordinary thing to say about a monarch who'd reached the age of 96, 70 years on the throne. There she was in official photos, on her feet, smiling, greeting her outgoing Prime Minister, and then her new PM at Balmoral Castle just 2 days ago. She looked well, and now the news has drawn the focus of the country and much of the world. We'll bring you reaction in this country and from around the world. We'll be reflecting on the life of Queen Elizabeth II on the programme today, on what it meant, what it means, and what her passing will mean for her family and our country. I should say we'll start to reflect on these things because it's a conversation as we wait anxiously for news from Balmoral Castle. It's a conversation that's going to continue for some days to come. Stig Abel is here with me. Stig, your thoughts as Stig, the family's gathering at Balmoral, politicians sending their anxious messages. We wait for news, and we have not yet had further news in any detail about the Queen's condition. But in any event, it's a grave moment.
It is a grave
for the country,
and it's an extraordinary moment that the clans are gathering, and we can very much feel that the plane has just landed in Aberdeen carrying the Duke of Cambridge, the Duke of York, the Earl and Countess of Wessex. That's an extraordinary thing. We don't normally know about their movements altogether. We now know they're going to Balmoral, and I think it's so right that point you said that it's a testament to the Queen that something about the poor health of a 96-year-old woman who has been ill. You feel it not only as a shock, you feel it as a kick to the gut. And I think a nation who's, I think 85% of everyone in Britain today has only known this Queen. They were born, they've grown up with just this one figure who's been there for the entirety of their lives, never put a foot wrong, stood for something, stood for this country on the world stage. And this notion that she is facing very, very grave illness, that she is a mortal woman, which of course we all know at some level, but when it's brought home to us is a thing that everyone is feeling today. And you can sense it in the air. You can sense magnitude in the air, I think, John, don't you think?
Yeah, I really do. I think so many people listening to this will share exactly that thought. You don't need to be the world's most committed or convinced monarchist or royalist. I think people of all persuasions around the country are going to be sharing much the same sort of feeling, much the same sort of thought. When you contemplate an elderly, sick relative, someone you care for in your family, you may know that this person is not in the best of health. You may know they are in very advanced age, but there's a moment. It's a moment of torment, and it's not over sentimentalizing the whole thing. To feel and believe that sort of conflict, that emotional sort of wrench is going on in hearts all up and down the country. You can't speak for everyone. Some people will not feel that, will not want to feel that. But there's something about this monarch and this country at this time, it's reasonable to generalise about that.
And cynicism is a national sport in this country, and there's nothing wrong with that, generally speaking. But I think there are a few figures that make you put cynicism to one side, and the Queen is unquestionably one of them. And people, wherever they are in the country, the news now trickles everywhere, doesn't it? They made that extraordinary statement in the palace saying she is seriously unwell. She's under medical supervision. We saw what happened in Parliament when the news broke there. No news lasts at all now. Everyone around the country, the tendrils of this story will have touched everybody, and everyone will be thinking, what happens next? I hope she's okay, but I understand that she may well not be. And it's that balance that people are feeling at the moment where you got to hope for the best, but you feel all along that you're expecting the worst. And over the next few hours, we'll be reflecting on that because it's a moment where people will be reflecting on her, our relationship with her, and what she means to this country.
Let's bring in Roya Nikkah, who's here with us in the studio. Roya Nikkah, royal correspondent of the Sunday Times. Welcome to the studio, Roya. Just on this question of the way we, another vast generalisation, but I think in many ways appropriate, the way that we are feeling. We can only imagine, can't we, the way that those nearest and dearest to the Queen, her family, must be feeling now. Anyone who's been through moments of great anxiety in their own family will understand and empathise with all of this. The remarkable thing is that I think is going to be a feeling common to many, many millions of people in possibly quite a unique way.
Well, I think that's right. And as Stig said, as we see members of the royal family now arriving at Balmoral, there's so much been written and spoken about how much discord there has been in the royal family over the last couple of years, and now for the first time we're seeing so many members of the royal family coming together. Harry and Meghan are also making their way up to Scotland. And I think the other thing, just to reflect on what Stig was saying, we talk about no one can quite comprehend the fact that the Queen is now seriously unwell. You know, she's been so steadfast. We've had an announcement from the palace today to say that she's very, very ill. 2 days ago, we saw her welcoming Boris Johnson,
looking hale and hearty,
and saying goodbye to him and welcoming the new Prime Minister. You know, doing her red boxes. She was doing her red boxes until the evening on Tuesday. We are now at Thursday, and I think that goes to the heart of what an extraordinary monarch she is, and how seriously she takes duty. But of course, you know, these are very anxious times for the family up in Scotland, all rallying around to be with her.
Yeah, I mean, can you just get us up to date? We're watching events, aren't we, as we speak? You in particular, as you say, the royal family is converging on Balmoral Castle. What can you tell us about that? What is going on?
Well, we know that the Princess Royal had already been up there, so I think she was one of the first to be there. From this morning, Charles and Camilla made their way up very quickly. We've just seen the plane touch down at Aberdeen carrying William, Andrew, Prince Edward and Sophie. Harry and Meghan were supposed to be at this charity event this evening, the Well Child Awards in London. That's been, I believe, that's been cancelled, and they're making their way up there. And again, that is an extraordinary concept when you think about what has been going on in the royal family recently, that they are now all coming together, putting all those differences aside. They are all coming together at Balmoral. And I think perhaps one of the nice things for some of those members of the family will be that they have all recently, at different times over the summer, spent very, very special time with the Queen up at Balmoral on her summer break. And I think they will all be taking a lot of comfort from that.
And how much is this then? How much is this governed by the family feeling, and how much is governed by protocol? Because this is a very exceptional family. Their lives are completely controlled by protocol in lots of respects. This is an event that is not, you can't plan for this event entirely, but it's an event that's been conceived for many, many, many years. She's a 96-year-old woman. How much is governed by sort of being in a family suffering the potential loss of someone very close to them, and how much is the rules and sort of plans come into effect, do you think?
I think what we've seen today is not governed by any rules or protocol. It is children of the monarch, grandchildren of the monarch wanting to go up there and be with the Queen as she's gravely ill. I think protocol will kick in at a later time, but at the moment I think it's more of a personal instinctive reaction that whatever they're doing, they're dropping it and they're going up to Scotland.
Yeah, I'm just seeing this news come in on social media. It's a small announcement of the kind I think we're going to be seeing very, very regularly and constantly over this period. It's just been announced Buckingham Palace have called off the changing of the guard at Buckingham Palace. A regular, you could set your watch by the changing of the guard at Buckingham Palace. It was due to take place tomorrow, and it's not happening, Roya, which again tells you, I mean, this is an institution which has habits and sticks to them. Even a thing like that tells you that things have changed significantly.
Well, we know that, you know, we've had the announcement for Buckingham Palace that the Queen is gravely ill. That announcement came slightly earlier, actually, on the changing of the guard. I think, you know, the feeling up at Balmoral is pretty sombre, and I think any change in protocol, like changing of the guard, will reflect that at the moment.
Tourists are in tears, it's being reported, outside Buckingham Palace, people gathering at Buckingham Palace, as you'd expect at a time like this. But that sort of mood of anxiety, it's spreading, well, I guess, across the country.
Well, as Stig said, even though we have a 96-year-old monarch who has a record-breaking 70-year reign, it is an event, and it's something that so few of us can contemplate because she is the only monarch that so many of us have ever known, you know, that face on the stamps, on the currency. And so when you get an announcement like that from Buckingham Palace, it's impossible not to feel the anxiety that perhaps one day she won't be there.
And in some ways, the last couple of years, she's shown herself as in a role that's never been more important. When the pandemic happened, when you look for people who give sort of moral leadership, give authority, give comfort. Comfort's maybe quite a good word when you think about the Queen because of her stability and her generally getting the tone right. Actually, her last few years, or the last few years rather, have been difficult in some respects, but they have also shown her at her best, perhaps.
I think that's exactly right. You know, we have had turbulent times in the last few years. We have had the pandemic, we have had Brexit, and so many people constantly talk about and write about the Queen as being this one extraordinary symbol and human symbol of constancy and steadfastness and reassurance, particularly with that extraordinary special address at the start of the pandemic. And I think, you know, now is the time people will be reflecting on what does the future look like potentially without that. And it looks very and will feel very different.
Yeah, it's a huge moment, you know, conceivably a turning point, this, in the life of the country. And just, Roy, on the here and now, we're sitting here, people are listening to this at home, and it's a hiatus. We're waiting for whatever news may be maybe given out to us at whatever time. The palace, you know better than anyone, they're naturally cautious and very discreet about what they say and when they say it and to whom they say it. How widely, as you understand it, are the facts of the Queen's health shared? I mean, not just family, but also political leaders who have a personal and constitutional concern about this. How does that work?
Well, as you say, Buckingham Palace never keen to give a running update, a running commentary, and updates on the Queen's health. But family will always come first. Family will always be informed first about anything. And I think beyond that, political leaders are very much second to that. And I think, there is so much speculation in the media, but I think the palace are very keen just to make sure that everything is handled in a very orderly way. And the fact that we are seeing the family gathering around the Queen, things are grave.
Yeah, it was interesting this morning, wasn't it, Stig, that the feeling was very strong earlier on today that something was happening of serious importance when during the discussion in the House of Commons, which on any normal day or any abnormal day would have been of consuming interest, a big announcement by the Prime Minister on a matter of economic policy, we saw a senior minister approach the Prime Minister in the House of Commons on the front bench and brief, in the middle of an enormously important debate. Moments later, the same minister was talking to the leader of the opposition, and then we thought something of national, untoward importance is going on here. And we were already hearing doctors were concerned about the Queen, and then I guess the feeling really sets in.
And Roy, do you feel, a lot of royal correspondents have a degree of cynicism about how the royal household, and it's very tricky for the royal household, isn't it? Because at one level, she's an elderly woman who will have all sorts of medical concerns in the way that everyone of the age of 96 does. But she's an extraordinarily important 96-year-old woman to the lives of many people. And there's a tension there, isn't there, between privacy and respect, and also making sure that a country that looks to her is given proper information. Do you feel, as someone who moves in that area, that balance is always correctly struck? Is that quite difficult to see?
It is. I don't envy Buckingham Palace at these moments. It's very difficult, and I know there are certain commentators and broadcasters who are never quite satisfied with how much information we get from Buckingham Palace. But at the end of the day, as you said, Stig, you have to remember, I know she's the head of state, I know she's the head of nation, but the Queen is also a grandmother, a great-grandmother, a woman who's entitled to medical privacy, and we have to try and respect that as best we can.
Yeah, I guess it's also worth remarking, because you could say this too is unique to the Queen and her relations with the country and with the media and people like you, with the broadcast media, the writing press. She does have a reservoir in the bank, as it were, an enormous fund of goodwill. Anything that's written or said or broadcast about the Queen, at time of scandal, at time of political crisis, at time of great joy, whatever it happens to be, it is done with the default position that there is affection and enormous respect for the Queen. That is a resource on which the Queen as an institution and the Queen as a person can always rely.
Most of the time, John, but actually if you look back over history, there have been some times where that has not always been the case. I think we think back to the death of Diana, Princess of Wales, and the Queen came under a lot of flack then. But I think in recent years, and certainly we saw that at the Platinum Jubilee, an overwhelming outpouring of affection for a record-breaking monarch.
Yes, and the crisis at the time of the death of Diana was, if you like, the exception that proved the rule, wasn't it? It magnified the depth of that crisis.
And it may well mean that it was a moment where she changed how she related herself to the people as well. Roya, thank you so much for joining us today. It's a very sad day, and I know you'll be very busy, but it's very good to speak to you.